From Letters to Hearts, a Timeless Love Story. Chapter 1, The First Letter. As the days in the small coastal town roll by, Daniel finds himself returning again and again to the letter he discovered. It's hidden between the yellowed pages of an old poetry book that he nearly placed back on the shelf that evening, and he often wonders how long it had been sitting there, waiting for someone to find it. The letter is handwritten on thin, cream-colored paper, fragile at the edges, as though time had tried to reclaim it. The words are gentle, written in a looping, elegant script, and they carry the scent of distant places and long-forgotten dreams. In the letter, Isabel speaks of a love she never had the courage to pursue. She writes about a man she loved from afar, a man she thought was too good for her, someone she admired in silence and whom she could never confess her feelings to. Her words are vulnerable, almost raw in their honesty, and they stir something deep inside Daniel. Daniel finds himself reading and rereading the letter. It's as if Isabel's voice reaches out to him from across time and space, each word etched into his heart. He's haunted by the beauty of her unfulfilled love, by her longing for someone who may never even know she felt this way. And, in the quiet of the bookstore late at night, Daniel feels compelled to respond. He sits at the wooden counter with a pen and fresh sheet of paper, and without fully understanding why, he begins to write back. He doesn't address her as Isabel, but instead writes to the person behind the letter, the one who dared to bare her soul. He tells her he understands that feeling of unspoken love and admiration, how sometimes words fall short when we want to say them the most. He confesses he's been deeply touched by her courage in admitting her feelings, even if only to herself on paper. When he's finished, he places his reply back inside the poetry book, in the same spot he found Isabel's letter. Days pass, and Daniel almost forgets about the letter. The bookstore is quiet, especially in the early mornings, when the sun filters through the windows and bathes the shelves in soft, golden light. He spends his time organizing books, chatting with customers, and occasionally glancing at the poetry section, wondering if his reply will ever reach Isabel, or if she even exists. Then one evening, as he closes up for the night, he notices something unusual. There, tucked in the same spot in the poetry book, is another letter, written in the same delicate script. His heart quickens as he realizes Isabel has replied. She writes with warmth and grace, thanking him for his response, though she's surprised and delighted by it. Isabel shares that she has often felt alone in her thoughts and feelings, as if no one else could understand the depth of her yearning. She speaks of little things, walks by the ocean, the scent of old books, memories that linger like shadows. She doesn't mention the man she wrote about before, but her words are wistful, as if searching for a kindred soul. Their exchange continues, letters hidden in the poetry book like secrets passed through invisible hands. Each reply feels like a quiet revelation, as they open up about their dreams, regrets, and the beauty of small, ordinary moments. Isabel writes about the scent of salt in the air, how the waves remind her of life's endless ebb and flow. Daniel tells her about the first snowfall he remembers as a child, when his mother bundled him in layers and took him outside to feel the snowflakes on his face. With each letter, Daniel finds himself falling deeper, not into a conventional kind of love, but something more profound and mysterious. There's a thrill in writing to someone he may never see, in baring his soul to a person who exists only in words on a page. He starts to look forward to their exchanges, to the gentle unraveling of a connection he never expected to find. Gradually, Daniel realizes that his feelings have changed, that his life feels fuller, richer with the promise of each new letter. In the quiet hours, as he locks up the bookstore and slips another response into the poetry book, he wonders who Isabel really is, where she lives, and whether fate will ever let them meet. Chapter 2: The Lost and Found of Love. As years pass, the letters between Daniel and Isabel fade into memory, but they never truly disappear from Daniel's heart. Life moves forward as he settles into marriage with a kind and loving woman named Sarah. They build a life together, raising 2 children in the very town where Daniel grew up. The bookstore becomes a family endeavor, a place where their children laugh and play among the shelves, where Sarah arranges books, and where Daniel's heart is still quietly tethered to the hope of finding Isabel again. Through the seasons, Daniel continues to leave occasional letters in the poetry book. They're shorter now, more like glimpses into his daily life and reflections on the moments that shaped him. He writes of his family, his children's milestones, and his gratitude for the life he's built, even though he still thinks of Isabel and wonders about her. His letters become a way of sharing his life with someone he believes may never read them, but someone he cannot bear to forget. Sarah, though aware of the letters' importance, has never read them. She understands that her husband's connection to this mysterious woman was built on words and shared dreams, an enduring bond that didn't take away from his love for his family. She sees how each letter Daniel writes to Isabel is like a part of his soul finding a place to rest, and she respects that. Sometimes she'll catch him lost in thought, glancing toward the poetry section, and she'll place her hand on his shoulder, a silent reminder that she's with him, that she understands. For Daniel's children, the bookstore is their playground. They know of the letters in the poetry book, an old story, like a family legend their father never tires of sharing. As they grow, they become curious about Isabel, the mysterious woman from their father's past, and the letters that shaped his life in subtle but profound ways. The eldest, Michael, takes a special interest in the poetry section, often rearranging the shelves and carefully placing his father's letters where he knows they belong. The letters are, to him, a symbol of love that knows no boundaries, a reminder of how much words can mean. And yet, with time, the letters do slow, and Daniel writes less often. The responsibilities of life, the children's schooling, the bookstore, and the beautiful chaos of everyday family life, begin to occupy his time and heart. He still thinks of Isabel in quiet moments, and sometimes, as he closes up the bookstore at night, he finds himself standing by the poetry section, his fingers grazing the spine of the book where he placed those letters, wondering if she ever returned to read them. Years slip by, and Daniel grows older. His children become adults, moving out into the world to pursue their own dreams, and the bookstore becomes a quieter place once more. Sarah is always by his side, their love deepened through the trials and joys they've shared. Yet, even in the comfort of his marriage, there remains a soft ache in Daniel's heart, a feeling he can never quite let go of. He hopes that somewhere out there, Isabel has found happiness too, that she's loved and been loved, that she's had a family of her own, a life as rich as the one he's lived. Then, one winter's day, life shifts in a way Daniel never expected. Isabel, now in her 70s, steps off a bus and onto the familiar cobblestone streets of her old town. She's alone, carrying a simple leather handbag and a heart full of memories that time has softened but never erased. Widowed now, her husband gone for several years, she feels ready to face the past she left behind. The years have given her courage to seek closure on the things that once held her heart captive, the things she's often thought of but never dared to revisit. and chief among them is the bookstore where her letters once lived, the place where her younger self whispered her dreams to a stranger. Her steps are slow but purposeful as she makes her way through town. She recognizes familiar sights, the bakery on the corner, the sea breeze mingling with the scent of fresh bread. Memories flood back, and her heart pounds as she approaches the bookstore. She knows this is where she must go, where a part of her story still lingers, waiting for her to reclaim it. Inside the bookstore, it's Michael, Daniel's son, who first sees her. He's busy shelving books when he notices the elderly woman standing in the doorway, looking around as though searching for something familiar. Her face holds an expression he's seen before in his father's eyes, a look of yearning mixed with nostalgia. Michael's heart stirs with an unspoken understanding, and he approaches her with a welcoming smile. "Can I help you with anything?" he asks gently. Isabel hesitates, her voice catching as she answers. "I was wondering about the letters. There was a man who used to leave letters in a poetry book. I'm not sure if he still does." Michael's heart skips a beat. He understands immediately who she must be, Isabel, the woman from his father's stories. He studies her face, recognizing in her eyes the same quiet depth he's seen in his father's words. "I think I know what you're looking for," he says, his voice reverent, as if he's stumbled upon something sacred. "Wait here a moment." He disappears to the back of the store, where his father's letters are carefully stored, each one kept with a quiet hope that Isabel would one day return to read them. Michael retrieves the letters, his hands trembling slightly as he places them in Isabel's hands. She holds them as though they're the most precious things in the world, her fingers tracing the familiar handwriting, tears filling her eyes. Isabel finds a quiet corner of the bookstore, her heart pounding as she begins to read. Each letter takes her back to a different time, reviving memories she thought she had tucked away forever. Daniel's words are like pieces of his soul, each one filled with reflections on life, love, and the family he built. He wrote about his children, his wife, and his work, but always with a touch of something deeper, a gratitude for the connection they shared, for the letters that had shaped his life. For Isabel, reading these letters feels like stepping back into her youth, to a time when her heart was open and full of hope. She smiles through her tears, realizing that, though life had taken them down separate paths, Daniel never forgot her. His words hold a tenderness that transcends time, a love that was quiet and unspoken, but nonetheless profound. As she reads, Michael watches from a distance, sensing the significance of this moment. He's known about his father's letters his whole life, but seeing Isabel here, reading them with such reverence, brings a new understanding. It's as though he's witnessing a reunion not just of people but of souls. When Isabel finally finishes, she sits for a moment in silence, her gaze fixed on the letters in her hands. Then she looks up, and Michael approaches her once more. "Would you like to meet him?" he asks softly. Isabel nods, her heart full as she follows Michael out of the bookstore and down the familiar path to Daniel's home. The journey is quiet, both of them understanding the weight of this moment. When they reach the house, Michael calls his father to the door. Daniel emerges slowly, his eyes widening as he sees Isabel standing before him. He's older now, his face lined with age, but his eyes are bright with recognition, with the wonder of a moment he never dared to believe would come. "Isabel," he breathes, his voice filled with a lifetime of unspoken feelings. They stand there for a moment, looking at each other, each seeing the years and lives that have shaped them, the love that has endured in silence. And in that quiet space, surrounded by the memories of their letters, they understand that their connection was never lost, it was simply waiting for the right time to be found. Chapter 3: The Reunion of Souls. The air is thick with the quiet resonance of a final chapter as Daniel, now an elderly man with silver hair and gentle eyes that have seen a lifetime of seasons, returns to the bookstore one last time. This place, with its creaky floors, dust-filled sunlight streaming through the windows, and shelves lined with the countless stories he's collected, has been his sanctuary for as long as he can remember. The shop carries the memories of every chapter of his life, from the wonder of his childhood to the many moments spent with his children, to the evenings when he waited, hoping Isabel might appear. But today, Daniel's steps are slower, deliberate, as if each movement carries the weight of every word he's ever written to her. His hands, marked by time, graze the rows of books as he walks, feeling the spines under his fingers as if they were the threads that kept him tethered to his past. He feels a familiar ache of nostalgia, of stories read, letters written, and the bittersweet beauty of moments he kept for himself, shared only with Isabel through his hidden letters. The years between them, with all their silent hopes and missed connections, have woven an unbreakable bond, one that surpasses any romantic ideal of youth and grows into something deeper, more eternal. And then, as if answering the pull of his memories, Daniel looks up and sees her. Isabel. She stands quietly at the back of the bookstore, her silhouette framed by the soft light, her shoulders slightly stooped with age, but her presence still carrying that unmistakable grace. In her hands, she holds the letters he left behind. She's reading them carefully, as if each word is a whisper from the past, a message from the man she once knew only in dreams and glimpses. Daniel feels his heart tremble, not with the urgency of youth, but with the deep, calm realization that this moment is the culmination of all those years of waiting. He approaches her, and as she looks up, their eyes meet. There's no need for grand gestures or declarations. Everything they might have said was already written, held within the fragile pages of the letters they shared. In that quiet space between them, they find an understanding that words could never capture. It's as if time folds in on itself, all the years collapsing into this single, precious moment. They sit down together in the small reading nook by the poetry section, where it all began. Daniel and Isabel sit side by side, the quiet between them filled with the weight of their shared history, the unspoken words that had lingered between their letters, and the lives they had led apart but always with each other in their hearts. The letters have been exchanged, read, cherished. Now, it's their voices that finally carry the memories forward. They begin to speak, softly at first, about the lives they led, about the loves they knew, the children they raised, and the countless moments that filled their years apart. Isabel tells Daniel about her late husband, a kind and gentle man who brought her comfort and companionship. She speaks of her children, who gave her purpose and joy, and of the quiet moments when she would think of the letters she left behind, wondering if someone, somewhere, ever read them. She'd always hoped, in the back of her mind, that they had reached a heart as open as her own. Daniel listens with reverence, his gaze soft, absorbing every word. When it's his turn, he tells her of Sarah, his wife who understood the letters without ever asking about them. He shares the stories of his children, their laughter filling the bookstore over the years, and the solace he found in this very store, where he continued to write to Isabel in the hopes that one day, she would return. They speak of the joys and heartbreaks of life, the choices that shaped them, and the resilience it took to carry on while holding a quiet part of themselves apart, reserved for each other. Their families, who've gathered outside, watch with a sense of awe and tenderness. They understand that this meeting, this reunion, isn't merely a chance encounter but a reunion of souls that was destined, a culmination of love that has defied the bounds of time. Michael, Daniel's son, catches his sister's eye, both feeling the poignancy of their father's quiet, hidden love story unfolding before them. They see, in Daniel and Isabel, a reminder of love that goes beyond the common understanding of romance, a love that transcends the simple notion of being together and instead celebrates the depth of connection that can exist even in absence. The day slips into evening, the bookstore bathed in the soft, golden glow of sunset. Daniel and Isabel sit there, their hands resting together on the letters they wrote, their words filling the spaces between them in ways that feel as natural as breathing. They realize, in these final hours, that they didn't need to be lovers in the traditional sense to be bound by love. Their connection is one of friendship, longing, and a shared understanding of the beauty and pain of life. At last, the time comes for them to part. They know, without saying it, that this may be the last time they see each other. But there's a profound peace in that knowledge, a sense of closure they both feel deeply. They stand together, and Daniel reaches for her hand. She squeezes his, her eyes soft with gratitude and a hint of sadness. "Thank you," she whispers, her voice filled with the weight of a lifetime. "For keeping my words safe, for reading them, and for sharing yours." Daniel smiles, his own voice catching as he replies, "Thank you, Isabel, for giving me something to hold on to all these years." They share one last look, one that carries every letter, every word, and every hope they had ever exchanged. Then, with quiet strength, they walk away, not as lovers who missed their chance but as two souls who kept a promise to each other across the decades. Their parting is not an end but a fulfillment, a closing of a chapter that was written long ago but needed the wisdom and acceptance that only time could bring. As they leave, the bookstore falls into silence, the echoes of their story lingering in the air. Daniel and Isabel know, as they walk their separate paths, that they have finally found the peace they sought for so long. They are content in knowing that they have loved deeply, even if that love was never expressed in the way they once imagined. Their families, forever touched by the quiet reunion, carry forward the legacy of that love, holding close the lessons they've witnessed. They understand that love is not always about being together but about honoring the parts of ourselves that others leave behind, the memories we cherish, and the way we carry forward the people who have touched our lives. And so, Daniel and Isabel's story becomes a family legend, a testament to a love that was quiet, enduring, and profound, a love that transcended time, distance, and even understanding. In the years to come, their children and grandchildren will speak of that winter day, of the letters hidden between the pages, and of the two hearts that found each other again, not for romance, but for something far deeper, a reunion of souls. Themes and emotional pull. This story captures themes that resonate across cultures, age groups, and personal experiences, making it universally moving. At its core, it's a meditation on love, not just romantic love but the love that transcends time, space, and even traditional understanding. The story takes us beyond mere affection, portraying a deeply rooted connection that evolves into something closer to kinship, an unspoken pact shared between two souls whose lives have touched each other in ways words alone could never express. The theme of connection is fundamental. Daniel and Isabel's story is a journey through the ways in which two people, separated by years and the lives they've led, find each other through words and shared sentiments. Through the letters, they create a bond that, while never realized in a physical relationship, is intensely real and nourishing to their spirits. This connection speaks to the universal longing many people feel for someone who understands them on an intimate level, someone who speaks to their deepest selves, even if that connection remains at a distance. It is about the spaces between people, filled with thoughts, hopes, and the love that persists despite obstacles. The letters are tangible reminders of this connection, vessels of their emotions that bring them solace and a sense of purpose over the years. In the same vein, the theme of unfulfilled love takes a nuanced approach, depicting a love story that's not based on proximity or possession. Rather than portraying a regretful narrative of love missed, it celebrates the beauty of unspoken words, of moments held onto but never acted upon, and the courage it takes to hold someone close in one's heart without needing to possess or control. This exploration speaks to the bittersweet aspect of human relationships, the understanding that not all love stories culminate in a union, but that doesn't make the love any less profound. For Daniel and Isabel, their unfulfilled love becomes a sanctuary, a part of themselves they nurture privately and protect from the outside world, making it all the more sacred. Family plays a significant role in shaping both characters and in shaping the story's overall message. Daniel's family, for example, becomes an anchor, offering him the stability and love he needs even as he continues his quiet devotion to Isabel's letters. His wife, understanding of the quiet connection he holds with someone she'll never meet, loves him in her own way, recognizing that the letters are a part of his life that makes him whole. His children, who later come to see the depth of his relationship with Isabel, experience the revelation that love can exist in so many different forms, inspiring them to see relationships through a lens of acceptance and grace. Similarly, Isabel's family fills her life with purpose and joy, yet she, too, keeps a part of herself separate, a part that finds fulfillment in her connection with Daniel. The story celebrates how family can ground us and give us the courage to hold on to the things that matter, allowing us to live authentically and with kindness. In terms of emotional pull, nostalgia is a powerful element woven into the story. The letters themselves are symbols of a bygone era, a time when people took the time to write by hand, to pour their thoughts onto paper in a way that feels deliberate and deeply intimate. Through these letters, both Daniel and Isabel revisit parts of themselves that might otherwise have been forgotten. They both live full lives, but these letters remind them of the dreams they once had, the quiet hopes they cherished, and the moments of clarity that often come only in youth. For readers, the story stirs a longing for lost dreams, for the romantic ideals we may have let go of over the years, and for the parts of ourselves that lie dormant but never truly disappear. It invites us to remember, to relive, and perhaps to reclaim those parts of ourselves. Another essential theme is the enduring impact of words. Daniel and Isabel communicate through letters, and those words bridge the years between them. This theme speaks to the universal truth that our words carry weight. They have the power to heal, to inspire, to connect, and even to sustain us when circumstances keep us apart. Each letter they write is a thread, weaving together their stories and reinforcing their connection. The letters serve as physical representations of their innermost thoughts, a testament to the way in which words, once given life, can take on a significance beyond what was ever intended. In a world where communication often feels rushed and transactional, the letters remind us of the beauty of thoughtful expression and of the connections we can build through words alone. The story also speaks to the timeless quality of love and human connection. By the time Daniel and Isabel meet in person, they are both elderly, yet their connection remains as strong and pure as it was in their youth. Their story challenges the traditional narrative of romance and aging, suggesting that love is not bound by age or life stages. This idea provides a comforting sense of continuity, illustrating that love can flourish quietly over time, adapting to the changing landscape of our lives. This theme may resonate with readers who have felt the presence of a loved one from afar, or who have kept alive the memory of someone they lost. It shows that love is not diminished by time or distance, but rather gains depth and complexity as life progresses. Perhaps one of the most resonant themes is the legacy of love. By the story's end, Daniel and Isabel's families recognize the significance of their connection. The younger generations come to understand that love is not merely a passionate blaze that fades with time, but a steady light that can guide and inspire even those who didn't experience it firsthand. Daniel's and Isabel's story becomes a family legend, a testament to the endurance of the human heart, inspiring future generations to seek meaningful connections in their own lives. This legacy aspect encourages readers to think about the ways in which their own stories, relationships, and values will influence those who come after them. It's a reminder that we are all part of a larger tapestry and that the love we share, no matter how unconventional, can leave an indelible mark on those around us. Ultimately, the story's emotional impact lies in its simplicity and depth. There is no grand romance, no heroic ending, no sudden twist. Instead, the power of the story lies in its subtlety, in the quiet moments that carry immense meaning, and in the shared humanity of two people who have lived, loved, and experienced the bittersweet beauty of life. It's a story that invites readers to pause, to reflect, and to feel the depth of emotions that come from recognizing parts of ourselves in the characters. We see in Daniel and Isabel a reflection of our own hearts, the parts we keep hidden, the dreams we carry, and the connections we cherish, even if they remain unfulfilled. In the end, Daniel and Isabel's story reminds us that true love is not always about romantic fulfillment, but about the courage to connect, to be vulnerable, and to share parts of ourselves with others. Their story is a celebration of love's quiet persistence and the way it can shape us, guide us, and leave an enduring legacy for those who follow. It's a reminder that, no matter where we are in life, we all seek connection, understanding, and the beauty of being seen, even if only in words. This simplicity, universality, and profound emotional pull make the story one that all readers can embrace, a story that resonates deeply, leaving a lasting imprint on the heart.